This is God and Autobiography, the podcast, a dramatic adaptation and continuing discussion of the book God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher by Jerry L. Martin. He was a lifelong agnostic, but one day he had an occasion to pray. To his vast surprise, God answered in words. Being a philosopher, he had a lot of questions, and God had a lot to tell him. Episode 210. Hello, and welcome to God and Autobiography, the podcast. I'm your host, Scott Langdon. And this week we return with a message from Jerry in a series we call From God to Jerry to You. When Jerry asked God how he could be of service, God responded by saying, "I want you to tell my story." In this episode, Jerry talks about how God explains his desire to be known by us as one who loves us and suffers along with us. That God even has a story is a revelation unto itself. The implications for theologians are many, and so are the implications for the non-theologically minded. Here now is Jerry Martin to explain more. I hope you enjoy the episode.
One of the first things God said to me was, "I want you to tell my story." Well, I didn't know God had a story, but God proceeded to tell me. And what is God's story? Well, first, it's the story of what it is like to be God and how God suffers along with us. Second, it's the story of God reaching out to us throughout history and in our many cultures. It turns out that the religions are different because God didn't tell them all the same thing. He had a different assignment for each. All together, they reflect facets of the divine reality. The implication for theology was clear, and I presented it to the religious studies community as the ineluctable syllogism. Here it is. If the aim of theology is to know and articulate all we can about the divine or ultimate reality, and if insights into that reality are found in multiple traditions, then what we need is not just a theology of our own religion, but a theology open to insights beyond it, a theology without walls. Now you might think, well, that is just for theologians, and I'm not a theologian, so don't bother me. But there's a larger sense in which each of us is a theologian. Like everybody these days, you are aware that there are many religions in the world, even in your own town. Each of us has the task of making sense of this rich array of insights, different ways of praying and meditating and worshiping. Even if you decide that your own religion provides a secure and sincere connection to God, that is itself a choice made in full awareness that there are other religions that apparently have a lot to offer. They are available to learn from if we ever decide to explore them. Meanwhile, just be the best friend to God you know how to be. God doesn't ask for anything more.
Thank you for listening to God and Autobiography, the podcast. Subscribe for free today wherever you listen to your podcasts and hear a new episode every week. You can hear the complete dramatic adaptation of God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher by Jerry L. Martin by beginning with episode 1 of our podcast and listening through its conclusion with episode 44. You can read the original true story in the book from which this podcast is adapted, God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher, available now at Amazon.com and always at godandautobiography.com. Pick up your own copy today. If you have any questions about this or any other episode, please email us at questions@godandautobiography.com and experience the world from God's perspective, as it was told to a philosopher. This is Scott Langdon. I'll see you next time.